8. When love touches a dream. Hekolil had fallen asleep on the goatskin rug that he carried with him. He snored gently, his large belly rising and falling, his hand firmly on his cutlass. Tasmil sat cross-legged, watching the flames dance. They had roasted a large grass cutter over it and boiled green plantain. The evening air was very cool, and she wrapped her arms around her. Wayne sat down beside her. Immediately she felt the warmth from his body and turned. "I can see the firelight dance in your eyes, Tasmil." She nodded. She could see it dance in his. As they had climbed up the mountain, she had wondered about his life, about the life of their brothers in America. He had spoken with such passion, she had felt an anger burn in her against those who had been responsible for the terrible things Wayne had spoken about. "What are you thinking about?" She turned and looked at him. She could not imagine him as a slave. He looked so majestic with the orange and yellow lights dancing on his face, his huge muscles strong and firm. He was so handsome she wanted to reach out and stroke that firm strong chest, and run her fingers through the black silky hair and. "Tasmil," he looked puzzled. "You are far away again." She wrote on the ground, "Tell me about you, about your life in America." He sighed and leaned back. "Me? Why? You?" He sat up sharply. "Don't strain your voice, let it come naturally, slowly." She nodded. He leaned back again and looked up at the thousands of stars studding the dark velvet sky. "Many moons ago my ancestors left this land, not of their own will, never to return. My great-great-grandmother ended up in the south of the United States. She never saw any of her family again. It was very hard for her to remember that she was not born a slave, she had been born free. She was a strong, proud woman, and she vowed that her descendants would be too. She lived to be very, very old. That was how I remember her." "Did you live in the South too?" She wrote. "No, fortunately, by the time I was born, slavery had been abolished by brave men like Abraham Lincoln who fought against the evil trade. My parents went to live in California." Tasmil shivered. Wayne watched the goose pimples rise on her bare arm. Gently he touched them with his warm hand. Tasmil jerked her arm away. "Tell me about the man of whom you spoke earlier today, the man who said all African Americans should return to Africa." He wrote a sign in the earth. He was known by this sign. He was a strong man, a sensitive man. A man who suffered greatly for being an African American. Tasmil's eyebrows rose. "Oh, that man. He was misguided, wasn't he? Misunderstood, very much misunderstood. He was not a hypocrite, he loved his people. He could not stand seeing them treated like nothing. But his doctrine was one of violence and of hatred. At first, yes, he was angry. He was hurt and he was fighting back the way he knew how. His family was terrorized by the Ku Klux Klan. His father was killed because he spoke out against the evils of the times. His mother was driven insane, the family scattered, he became a drug addict and ended up in prison. Tasmil shivered again. "Did he do anything that was good?" Wayne smiled. "So much. He taught our people to be proud, that we were of great worth, we must not believe the lies we had been made to swallow for years. He taught the people that when you have a dream you must fight for it, if you believe in it, and you must stand up for it. But his dream was built on hatred and violence, wasn't it? Do you know why this man was one of the greatest leaders ever, Tasmil? Because he grew from the bitter, angry boy filled with hatred for the race that had enslaved him and his ancestors, raped and plundered his past, to a mature man filled with wisdom and understanding who was not afraid to change his words as his knowledge increased." "When did his knowledge increase?" Tasmil wrote sleepily. "When he walked on the famous long pilgrimage to Mecca with every race and creed on earth, all with one purpose, one cause, one voice. He had a new dream, a dream built on the old one, but greater, stronger, and much harder to achieve. My father, he used to call dreams that were hard to see the fulfillment of dreams called September." Wayne pulled a face. "A dream called September. When he planted his crop in April, when the rains were just falling, his dream was the good harvest, the one he knew he would only see in September after toiling, furrowing, watering the plants. He would trudge through the hard work, thinking of the harvest time." Wayne smiled. "I think I would have liked your father." "You would have?" He held her gaze as he sat up and leaned forward towards her. What is your dream, Tasmil? Do you have one? Tasmil shrugged. Well, just to sing, I suppose. It's a stupid idea. People from Kibaitii were royal singers once, the most distinguished singers in all the forest area. Do not sell yourself short. What is your dream, Wayne? Oh, of course, it is coming here to find your ancestors' resting place, isn't it? Who says a man can only have one dream? So you have another? Wayne laughed. I will tell you another time, Tasmil. Tasmil sighed. What is the sigh for? Oh, nothing. Just sometimes I dream that I am beautiful, with a face like Oma. It really hurt, what I said. He said nothing at first. Tasmil wondered if he had understood. He sat staring at the fire, and then he turned and leaned towards her. Gently, he cupped her face in his hands as though it were a delicate flower. You are the most beautiful woman I have ever known, Tasmil. Her eyes locked with his. Her soft brown eyes swam with tears and her lips trembled. His arms were around her. Tenderly, he bent his head and kissed away a stray tear that trickled down her cheek to the corner of her mouth. He traced the outline of her full, wide mouth. Tasmil sat transfixed. Her eyes met his again and, as if in slow motion, she watched his lips descend, closer, closer. She felt as though she would suffocate. Her arms crept up to hold him. A loud snort from the other side of the clearing sent her jerking apart from Wayne. Their lips never touched. Hekolil snorted loudly again in his sleep, turned over and settled down once more. Wayne ran a hand across his mouth and clenched his lips. Tasmil stared at her feet, the fire. Anywhere but Wayne. What madness was this? What had possessed her? Tasmil. She did not answer. I did not mean to startle you. I'm sorry. She looked up. It's all right, she wrote. She lay down on the palm branch and threw the woven blanket over her. Wayne slid into his sleeping bag and listened silently to the night sounds. Then he sat up. Tasmil. She turned and looked at him. I meant what I said. You are the most beautiful woman I have ever known, both inside and out. A small reluctant smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. Her eyes lit up. He had never seen her smile before. It was as though the sun had come out in the night, as though he had found his dream. But he still had the gold weight in his pocket. He closed his eyes and waited for morning to come. Ofori looked at the three men before him. He had no doubt that they would carry out his orders as best they could. He knew them well. He had known their fathers before them. They were all good, honorable men. He addressed them solemnly. You are to leave as the first cock crows. The route is as I have described to you. Do not stop for water, for food, for rest until you reach Tapia Shodo and our people. They nodded. Brima, one of the chosen, stepped forward. Have no fear, Ohin. We will not be long gone from this village. After all, he smiled, some of us have to hurry back to get married. Peace go with you, my sons. Brima bowed and led the other men out. His firm supple form gleamed in the light of the dying log fires in the village center. Labaina was standing there waiting to bid him goodbye. He went up to her and wrapped her in his arms. She pulled away as she had become accustomed to doing. He did not understand. She had been acting strangely for some time. What is it, Labaina? I am tired. Of me. Already, he tried to make a joke about it. Just go, just go. I miss you. I see you when you get back. Abruptly she turned and walked away into the darkness, leaving Brima very confused and alone. Give me your hand. I'll help you across. Tasmil stared at Wayne and then at the dark, swirling waters. She had never feared them before. Now all she could see was herself drowning beneath them. Trust me. I won't let you sink, Wayne whispered. Hekolil was bellowing from the other side, urging them on. Wayne took her hand. Reluctantly she let him help her. Slowly. Step into the waters, ignore the cold. It will pass. Hold my hand. Tasmil felt her body getting lighter as the water took her weight. The strength that vibrated through Wayne's touch was incredibly reassuring. Wayne smiled at Tasmil. The golden rays of sun reflected off the face of the water and lit up her eyes. He was enchanted by the pure beauty he saw inside her. She whispered to him suddenly, "Leave my hand." He let her go. Immediately she swam across with a speed and flexibility he had seen once in a fish. Then she stood on the bank laughing at him. With mock indignation, Wayne sprang out of the water and lunged after her. Tasmil ran screaming with laughter through the trees, splashing through the little streams, until she was utterly exhausted. Then she collapsed against the nearest tree trunk. Wayne threw himself beside her, panting hard for breath. "You have the most beautiful smile," he said, pinching her chin. Thank you. Her voice was very soft. A butterfly landed on a leaf above her head, its violet and red wings standing out against the emerald green of the leaves. The coming sound of the river filled the air. Wayne smiled back. Tasmil reached up and almost curiously, innocently touched his smile, as though she wanted to feel it, and he kissed her hand. Startled, she looked up at him. He caught her chin under his thumb and raised her head up to meet his lips as they descended gently and with pressure on hers. Her arms hesitated no longer. They wrapped themselves around his neck. Their hearts beat as though they would break as they surrendered to the beauty of the moment. The honey-sweet silence surrounded them as though not a single creature in all the world dare interrupt the moment. His lips kissed her eyes and her brow, and then straight down to her long, graceful neck. He kissed each finger so tenderly, lightly. From the river, Hekolil bellowed at them. Tasmil looked up. Wayne got to his feet. "Come, precious one. We must get back." Tasmil nodded, her heart still pounding like mad. She followed Wayne back to the river. Hekolil pointed up to the rocky climb above them. "We are within 5 minutes' walk of the hut," he said. Wayne held out his hand. "Thank you, brother." Hekolil ignored the hand. "I shall be leaving you as soon as Tapia Jodor gives you the directions. I need to return to Kibaitia." "But," Wayne began. Hekolil had been of great assistance to him, though they had not got on very well. "No buts. We get to Tapia Jodor's hut, and I must leave. Tasmil will come too." "You will be on your own." "That was not part of the deal," wrote Tasmil on the ground. Wayne looked worried, but he only shrugged. "Leave it. It will be okay. The American will be better off on his own," reassured Hekolil. They climbed the hill in silence. Ophibia turned the fried plantain, her mind far away. Wherever she looked there were guards. She was getting fed up with it. When a hysterical banging began at her door, she almost knocked the hot oil off the stove. I'm coming. She rushed over, wiping her greasy hands on her cover cloth. Afua stood at the door, her face tear-stained. She was wringing her hands desperately. "My sister," cried Ophibia, "what is it? Why are you weeping? Is Brima all right? Have they returned?" Afua shook her head. "Brima. Oh, Brima. I don't know if he will be fine after I have to tell him this. What has happened? Is Labaina all right?" "All right. My sister all right. What's happened?" "That's what I want to know. What's happened to our selfless, sincere, trustworthy society? Why are they selling each other for the treacherous proverbial piece of glass bead? Is nothing sacred anymore? What's happened?" Ophibia pushed Afua down into a chair and fetched her a calabash of cold spring water. Afua looked up at her, despair all over her face. "Labaina. She's pregnant. Pregnant. But she's to be married in a few weeks to Brima. Have they been? You know? It is not his child, my sister." "What?" Ophibia dropped the calabash. "The child belongs to the Madratai Saboan. Brima knows nothing.